I'm Dr. Alvydas Petruskevicius from Switzerland. Actually, my experience is that I started as a medical doctor. Later, I specialized as a pharmacologist. And when entering pharmacology arena, I went to development. So it was needed to get additional specializations like immunology, genetics, clinical microbiology, and oncology. So actually, this was like initial start working in pharma industry. But after some time, I can see that it was not really correct directions, especially when talking about the microbiome situation globally, I could say, and the influence of, I would say, not really correct use of different antibacterial and antifungal substance, and mostly used in agriculture and food industry. Actually, in medicine, in most of the cases, is used too oftenly as well. So as a consequence, we have a situation with serious mutations of the microbiome of the population globally, which is leading to serious, let's say, changes, first of all, in immune system action, but not only. It's starting from simple things as damages of mucosa or intestinal mucus slice. And due to this, changes of, let's say, transition of food particles and metabolization of food particles, where it's significantly involved the microbiome and especially microbiome bacterial part. And when this bacterial part is seriously mutated, which is the case now in majority of the population, we are talking about 95% of all population globally, it is leading, first of all, that the food is becoming not our friend, but like a problem, because when the food particles like fatty acids, amino acids, and so on are not metabolized correctly and absorbed in not correct way, I mean when is damaged mucosa, or mucosa it's too low, or even flat, or squeezy, or leaky, with different names. So let's say food particles without metabolization entering our bloodstream and in contact with immune system, provoking autoimmune processes or autoimmune inflammatory processes, which is actually leading to serious damages in different systems. But first of all, in our brain, because the brain is acting the most sensitive way to it. And actually, it's quite many different situations are starting at the same time. So that was the main issue why we decided that we need, let's say, to open our own company in Switzerland and start with research and development, and actually to find a way how to reset or recover the microbiome, or otherwise saying how to recover the gut and brain axis normal function, or how to optimize it. Because this is a key from where everything's starting, because when the gut and brain axis function is not adequate, we are getting in situation that the regulation system, which is, let's say, we're mostly talking about hypothalamus level, stop functioning correctly, and homeostasis in the body is not kept as it should be. So again, we are leading to different serious damages in different systems and different organs in our body. So we went to this our work doing research and development using all our knowledges and experiences. So we created a technology, first of all, how to cultivate, let's say, main 7 strains of the bacteria. Someone would call probiotical bacteria, but we are talking about strains of bacteria which is normally present in the newborn when he is born, and actually what he is ingesting when he is born from the mother's mucosa. First of all, I'm talking about a born natural way. When the baby is born, let's say through cesarean section, we are talking about something totally different. And let's say we took those main 7 strains, what we call like management team for our microbiome, and found the way or created a technology to cultivate it so that, let's say, when doing cultivation, it's free from mutagens or free from the substances which could affect those bacteria so that they would start mutating. And all the problem it is that, when the bacteria are affected by, let's say, antibacterial, antifungal, and different other substances, what we call mutagens, but not only, we can talk about radiation, different kind of radiation as well. So those bacteria start changing, or we call it doing mutation, and as a result, those bacteria start behaving differently. First of all, mutated bacteria of the microbiome, they stop communicate with our immune system. So immune system is becoming blind and have no any information what's going on in general in the body. So in this way, let's say the immune system stop doing what naturally it should do. First of all, protect our body structure and our cells and so on from potential pathogenic intervention. Instead of this, immune system start attack our own cells, and this what we could call, let's say, autoimmune inflammatory processes. And those processes can affect very different organs. First of all, we're talking about brain, let's say, because as a consequence of affection of the brain, we are having very serious damages through all the body, not only the mental action and so on. But most of the people knows as well that when is affected, for example, let's say mucosa of the intestines, we're talking about, let's say, different autoimmune inflammatory syndromes and symptoms. I don't like to talk in very small details because it's now the amount of those diagnoses is growing with every day, and the patients or amount of the patients who are suffering from this is growing as well. But as a consequence, we are having so-called sensitivity to the food, different components of the food. And let's say, as usually used expression is a leaky gut, or even sensitivity to gluten. It's nothing else as, let's say, the changes or mutations of the microbiome. So we are talking about serious changes in action in all the body. And why it is like this? It is, first of all, that our immune system is 100% dependent on our microbiome, and especially bacterial part. It's our, let's say, ability to get correctly prepared food components. First of all, fatty acids, which is extremely important. Again, we are talking about brain structure. So ability to get those fatty acids in correct format. And this is, again, we are talking that the microbiome is the one who is doing this work, and as well controlling the amount of those fatty acids or even amino acids are prepared and absorbed and transported to the cells. It's actually 100% control everything by the microbiome. So when the microbiome stop doing this function, like controlling and metabolizing food components, we're talking about one part. When in the bloodstream is floating not correct food components, let's say too long or too heavy chains of fatty acids, or let's say wrong peptides or wrong components of the amino acids, which is again landing to a situation like sensitivity expression or autoimmune processes, inflammatory processes, or someone says allergy to the food or whatever. But it's much more complex situation. We could talk about even intoxication with the food. So if we not do nothing about this, so the process sooner or later is landing to the situation like oncology or cancer, which is actually, I would say, the most dramatic expression what we have. But not only. We can talk about Alzheimer in old age, which is expression again, let's say the mutation of our microbiome and especially bacterial part. Or let's say we can talk about the situation when autoimmune inflammatory processes are affecting the brain and causing different other symptoms and syndromes. So it's complex happening what is going on. As well, even if we talk about autism, we are talking about situation that mostly we're talking about children who was born from the mothers who was actually having already mutated microbiome before they were born. And even worse, that they were born in not natural way, but through cesarean section. And immediately after they were born, they, instead of getting needed strains of bacteria from the mother mucosa, they were getting a hospital mutated microbiome. And that was leading actually to all those changes as an autism development. So actually, gave us a really push to start doing something about this. And we succeeded. We created a technology how to cultivate bacteria, not affecting them with mutagens. Of course, it took really huge, let's say, investments and time, but we succeeded. And then it was a question where to get this microbiome free from mutation. And first of all, those 7 strains, which is the main one when we're talking about reset or update of the microbiome, and especially bacterial. So we managed to get it in South Korea in, let's say, closed communities, Buddhist communities, which actually people are living isolated from all the other part of the society, and actually getting the opportunity to keep the microbiome as it was like 1,000, 2,000 or even more years ago. So that was the initial taking the strains of the newborn and starting cultivate in a technology free from mutagen. So next step, it was how to make so that those strains, when arriving to our gut or to our intestines, would be much more vital or active and would be able to replace or to colonize our intestines and our gut, so that, let's say, those mutated strains would not have any chance to survive. So the idea came into the technology of the cultivation of the stem cells in South Korea using red Korean ginseng, and that those stem cells are becoming much more vital and much more efficient. So actually we used this possibility and developed actually inside this technology free from mutagens, we start using actually red Korean ginseng to achieve much more higher vitality of the bacterial strains. And due to this, let's say those bacteria, when they are reaching the intestines, they multiply much more faster. They use all possible food. And actually for this mutated existing microbiome is nothing left, and they just shrink and disappear. And that's happening quite fast. So we're getting really like a reset of the microbiome with the one which is free from mutation. But it was another very important issue, because it was serious questions how to pass those bacteria through stomach acidity barrier, which is actually, let's say, ingest those bacteria, and when they arrive to stomach, they would die due to acidity. So we developed the other technology, how, let's say, to cover those bacteria, or otherwise saying, we used natural, let's say, situation that when you are dropping down temperature at the end of cultivation, bacteria are looking how to protect himself and adding a special components of, we call it silk proteins, which is again natural components, safe and natural components. They start using this silk proteins, or we could call, let's say, to cover itself like in a cocoon. And that helps for the bacteria to pass stomach 100% alive and efficient. So we got the situation that we do not need to use the capsules or tablets format. We can use a powder. In this way, we're getting very high transport possibility and bioavailability of those strains in our gut. But let's say when finally doing clinical studies for those strains and how they are affecting when using it, we noticed that, let's say, the red Korean ginseng substance, which is inside the bacteria, they start actually bacteria start to release it through the mucosa barrier into bloodstream. And the substance, it's like almost 1,000 times more efficient or active compared to just normal red Korean ginseng substance. And as you know, red Korean ginseng is known, let's say, for thousands of years, like a substance used first of all, in a very safe way for keeping regeneration on the highest rate. So actually, we're talking about regeneration and possibility to recover damaged tissues, organs, cells, and so on. So this combination or this synergy of reset of our microbiome plus this synergetic effect of red Korean ginseng, it's giving the opportunity, let's say, in a very short period, not only to improve the situation in digestion system, in our, let's say, gut and brain axis function, but optimization of all action of the body and first of all of the brain.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about what we're talking about here is energy biotics. So,
Yes.
I've been taking this now for 3 weeks. It's a little packet. You tear it open, you put it in your mouth, you let it dissolve, and then it does the work. So who you find is using, I found out about it from the Swiss Performance Institute out of Switzerland. They came to visit us here at the BrainTap Lab. And so they're using it with athletes, but who else is using it? You've mentioned children or people with autism. Who else is finding benefit from it?
Yeah, so let's say the groups of users start suddenly, let's say, expand and grow because due to situation of the synergistic work of both of the strains, we could call probiotical strains of the bacteria or reset of the microbiome effect, and the, let's say, very high bioavailability red Korean ginseng substance, we are getting situation that groups who are seeking or would like to have that good action of the brain or mental capacity. So first of all, it's business people, like here in Switzerland, of course, it's as always bankers, but not only, the traders and so on. So actually, this group from very beginning was having very high interest. Then, of course, join the ladies or women who would like to keep beauty and young looking. Of course, they started, first of all, to use due to problems in digestion or, let's say, the symptoms of leaky gut or this very popular expression here, SIBO, let's say. So they start using due to this, but they notice that after using 3 months, they have much more nice skin, much more nice old body look. And first of all, they have a lot of energy. The mood is improving significantly because, as I told you some time ago, already when we spoke, that actually it's enough that only one amino acid like tryptophan is not metabolized correctly, and we are landing up to depression. So if we are restoring the strain of the bacteria who are responsible to do this metabolization, so actually we affecting very much the situation which is relating to development of depression. So even for this, but here we are talking about more like young people or students. I'm talking, let's say, of our consumers, let's say, who start using to improve their mental capacity and ability, the concentration and so on. But they found out that when using this, they have more, let's say, optimistic and more ready to act, let's say, stage, which gave them, let's say, succeed not only in the studies, but even when starting their own business. But now our, let's say, direction went as well to other group, like first of all, pregnant women or breastfeeding women or the couples who are preparing to have children, because actually we are talking about a situation that if the couple or the mother and father have destroyed and mutated microbiome, so actually to expect to have healthy child with normal development, and especially we are talking about neurodevelopment, neuromotoric development, there's no chances. Because when the child is born already with the wrong microbiome, with mutations, so from very beginning, actually, his development, and first of all, the most suffering and brain action is not actually the old body, but the brain is first. So actually, this is our target where we start communicating, because we got very nice feedback from some communities of the mothers who have children with development problems or with very slow development possibilities of the children. When they start use the product, actually the situation start improving significantly. They see actually in few months, they see very big difference. Actually, those children with every week, they are becoming more concentrated. They are following all the other children at the same age. And this is giving really the opportunity or ability for those children to grow up in efficient people or efficient citizens. So that's our main target in this moment. But of course, we have the other groups like professional sport people, even Olympic athletes, who are using this product to improve, first of all, regeneration or recovery after competitions or even after trauma. Let's say we just have had here in Switzerland champion of Japan kickboxing. And actually we spoke with him that is a big issue about when having competitions, they are suffering from constant micro trauma of the brain. And to recover fast before they are getting into the next competitions, usually it's not possible. So usually those changes affected by micro trauma of the brain, they are collecting, and finally at 40 something, they're landing up into Parkinson and similar situations. So I would say especially those groups of professional sport people who are constantly suffering trauma, especially of the brain. I'm not talking about all the body, because for all the body is I would say extremely efficient. So we can talk about ice hockey, and we have very good experience here in Switzerland with the Swiss ice hockey team, because as you know, in Switzerland, ice hockey is like one of the leading sport of interest. So we saw that, let's say, ability for those professionals to recover after competitions and after trauma when using our product is many times faster compared to normal situation.
When you think about using antibiotics, it's very simple, right? You do it in the morning, you do it in the afternoon. You don't want to do it too late in the evening because it might give you too much energy, and that's what you had said. So when athletes are using this, or mothers are using it, or you're talking about students using it, really anybody that has, you said 95% of the people out there have something going on with their gut biome, and I know that probiotics are a big deal out there. I mean, a lot of our doctors sell probiotics, or they recommend probiotics. What makes this probiotic different? When somebody asks you, what's the difference? Why can't I just get one from the corner store that has probiotic on the shelf?
First of all, it's important that they would be free from mutation. Actually, by now existed only the technologies where it was used mutagens. It's actually due to technology of the cultivation, because otherwise you cannot control the speed of growth of those strains. You cannot control actually even purity of the strains. I'm talking about all technology or existing technology except our. And that's finally what's happening, that those strains of bacteria or those probiotical strains, they are actually affected by mutation already. So we're talking that we can increase with those probiotics only the amount of the bacteria in the gut, in the best case, actually not changing the situation of mutation. So that's the first difference, that our bacteria strains are free from mutation. The second one, let's say, issue, it is that the vitality or ability those bacteria when passing the stomach to be able to start multiply very fast and take positions, and to eliminate by this time existing, let's say, mutated microbiome or microbiome bacteria. So actually this is a key, I would say, because now it's very popular to advertise saying that in my capsule I have this and this amount of billions of bacteria, or this and this amount of different strains. This is not a key. Key is actually that the bacteria must be, first of all, vital, or when they are reaching the intestines and passing the stomach, they must be vital and ready to multiply. So that's the main issue. The issue is not the quantity. And of course, one of very important issue that we don't use the capsules. And why we don't use the capsule, it's essential one point, because as you know, the capsule, we're talking about gelatin component, or we're talking about microcellulose. So both of them, to keep them stable, or to keep the capsule stable during production, it is added some, let's say, stabilizers, or otherwise saying antibacterial, antifungal components, which are parabens. And actually, if you use the capsule itself, only the capsule itself, they are already containing the mutagens. So actually, if we would use the capsule, even for our strains, it would worse to be used. So that's why we developed this technology, how to deliver those strains in a powder format free from any capsule shell. So that's actually another big difference. And of course, the synergetic effect of both 7 strains or a set of the microbiome bacterial part and the effect of the red Korean ginseng. So we're talking not about just simple probiotical product. We're talking about the product containing synergetic effect. So as you said about the use, actually the product itself is done so that, first of all, it's melting in your mouth. So it's comfortable to use. You can, let's say, use this powder directly to your mouth. It's actually having, for most of the people, quite acceptable taste. Of course, we are saying that for elderly people and small children, it's better to be dissolved in small amount of like 40 milliliters of the water. And then, let's say, the effect is, we could say, a little bit faster, yes. But even using in powder format and using some or drinking some clean water afterwards, it works as well. Now about the time of use, I would really recommend to use it the morning time and lunch time and all the time after the meal. Because for those bacteria, when they arrive into your intestines, it's important that there would be enough food, because then they multiply very fast and take position on colonization in the intestines and do the work. So let's say the use in the evening or let's say at night. Of course, there are some people who are working at night or having something to do where they need to use the brain capacity. Yes, it's possible to do it. Of course, it doesn't work like a coffee, nothing to do like this. It's more about possibility still to keep very good concentration. And of course, let's say if you use it late in the afternoon or in the evening, you should expect that you will have inflow of the energy. So again, it depends who is doing what. Like for example, like you said, for professional sport people, and especially hockey player, they usually play hockey actually late at night. I'm talking here about Switzerland, for example. They have competitions late at night. So for them, it's actually essential to stay in active shape and a good concentration, especially late in the evening and at night.
When you think about what's going on with the gut, we had talked and you had said it replaces or it kicks out the old bacteria, the mutated bacteria, and replaces it with the new bacteria. Can you explain how that process works?
Yeah. So first of all, as I said, those 7 strains, they are extremely vital. As soon as they arrive into intestines, first of all, what they do, they immediately start using available food and multiply very fast. So actually this creating a situation that for those bacteria who was existed by this time, we're talking about mutated bacteria of the microbiome, they are not able to compete. So they are left without the food, they cannot multiply, and actually this way they disappear. So it's not some killing effect, it's actually competition, natural competition existing in the nature. So it's the first part. But what is even more important, that actually if to look to all development of the microbiome from the newborn till adult situation, so actually those 7 strains which is present in the newborn, what he is getting from his mother when he is born, it is essential to develop all the other strains and substrains and even control not only bacterial part, but bacteroids and fungal part as well. So this is like, we call this like a management team who is keeping all the composition of the microbiome in correct stage. This is something which, let's say, all this development of the microbiome was formating in us as a humans for millions of years. So that's, we have only the consequences. So what we are doing now, we are giving opportunity for the people who lost the normal microbiome or have mutated one, and to get a reset into new one free from mutation.
I know I'm going to put a link down below if you're watching this video, or in the email that I'm going to be sending out to you. There'll be a link. They're going to get a small discount, a 6% discount. But if they're a clinic owner, they can actually shelve this and give it to their patients, because a lot of our doctors obviously are brain doctors. They're working with people with anxiety, depression, a cognitive decline, weight loss, things of this nature. What do you recommend the dosage is for them?
Yeah, so actually our regular dosage, it is 2 sachets or 2 doses a day, one after breakfast, the second one after lunch. For the children, we should not recommend for the children younger than 3 years. In fact, like in countries like Japan or in South Korea, it is recommended and it's used not by us, but by specialists. And in fact, I would say that especially about children, it would be recommended to consult to the specialist before use, of course. But I would say that 2 sachets a day, it's enough. Of course, there are those like Olympic athletes. Yes, exactly. It's like this. Yes.
You put it in your mouth and taste it. My
Yeah.
wife likes them, and it's an accomplishment. Congratulations. So
Yes.
always a little scared when I bring something, you get something for, because to me, if it works, I'm going to take it regardless of the taste. But this has a good flavor to it, and so they take it after they eat breakfast, after they eat lunch, and then it starts to work. Now, after 3 months, what happens?
Yeah, so actually, based on the action or clinical action of this substance, we could call, so this product, it was done like some clinical studies. We should not talk about clinical studies because it's a food supplement officially, yes, but we checked all steps, what's happening actually in different stages and different organs and systems and so on. Let's say on volunteers in South Korea, by the way. Yeah. Let's say, but afterwards it was repeatedly done in Europe as well on volunteers. Let's say we got really like results that 3 months is a period when we are getting actually in usual way, regular way, we're getting regeneration of almost all cells and tissues and organs on the body. So normally we say actually to reset the microbiome and to achieve good functions or restore the functions of the organs. And first of all, we are talking about the brain action. We would recommend to use it at least for 3 months. In some serious cases, actually like Alzheimer, for example, yes, like autism, for example, yes, or some after the treatment of the cancer or oncology situations, let's say the recommendations are a little bit different. This is something what we could, let's say, do a separate maybe video or something like this exclusively for professionals.
So it's not really expensive. I mean, it's like they can order it from your site, you ship it from Switzerland to anywhere in the world, right? Or at least to the US where we're at. And it's like $50 a bottle. So you're talking about like for $150, they can get the treatment protocol. And if they want to continue on, they could do it once a day or something like that if they wanted to keep doing it for focus and concentration. Or if they had a severe case, maybe their clinician might ask them to do it for another month or something like that. What are you seeing as far as like the athletes? Because I know that when the Swiss Performance Institute came here, they have 40,000 Olympic athletes under contract, the Doyle group that came to visit me, and they told me about how they're seeing phenomenal results with recovery. What else are you finding is happening with people when they're using it?
Yeah, so let's say we can see very serious improvements of mental action or capacity, especially when talking about people who are working in business, in programming. Actually, we can see really serious improvements for the children and the students, especially for those who had problems during the studies. And of course, one of the biggest issue why most of the people start to use it, it's that it's actually in 3-4 weeks, the problems related to the gut or this all kind of leaky gut symptoms or the sensitivity to the food or intolerance to the food and so on, they disappear. As I told you, we recommend to use it like for 3 months, like 2 sachets a day. So actually, even when you said about delivery, so normally to US is reaching like in 2, maximum 3 days from Switzerland. So I think it's quick. And I would say that even right now, they are packed in a way that is those 5 cylinders in a box for delivery. It's a special box for safe delivery. So we actually recommend to order like this set, which is normally giving guaranteed effect.
So when you see people using this and doing these things, they've heard me talk a lot about gut-brain access. But we use things like lasers, and we use, we'll tell them to change their diet, eating healthy foods and things like this. This is a step up, right? I mean, this is something totally different. No one's seen this before. You have a patented process that does this. It's not like every probiotic on the shelf has this going for it. So what if I forgot to ask you about this, and why is it so important that people start working on their gut to fix their brain?
It's actually because, if to look in general, the microbiome is the one who is in general fully controlling us as a humans, as a physical body, and first of all, the function of the brain, actually everything what is happening with us. It's in fact, for the microbiome, let's say our body is like a machine or place to live, to survive, multiply, and to spread. And once they are free from mutation, they are interested to make us the most possible efficient and survival, and to keep us, of course, as the most efficient, to ensure for them the best possible food what they need. And of course, when being able to multiply as a humans, yes, we are getting new bodies, and those bodies for them is a possibility to spread. So it's at the same time we can talk about the effect on the sexual part of our body, yes, and ability to have the children. So this part is we very look that most of the people are looking at this very sensitive, so we avoid talking about this. But it's an opportunity for, especially now, young couples to have a children, because this is another big problem what is happening now. And again, main issue is mutated microbiome. So it's a complex things, yes. And if you restore or make this microbiome free from mutation, they will take care about you, about your brain, about your mind in the best possible way. They will make you, let's say, your cognitive function, like long-lasting, or we can talk about cognitive longevity, yes. And we can talk about longevity in general. I'm talking not very long living, but about being efficient when living.
So as we wrap up today, what if I forgot to ask you about antibiotics, or what would you like to reinforce before we end the call?
I would say, initially we were talking about making a product which could make, let's say, us more efficient. But when we got the results about the, let's say, level of the mutation globally, we are talking about possibility of the survival for humanity in general. Because those children who are born in the families with mutated microbiome, actually they already developing differently. And for those children, when it will come a time to have a children, we are not sure that they will have those children at all. So if to do nothing, we are talking about disappearing of humanity as such.
Right. So we're talking about energy up biotics. We're going to have the link below. I recommend you do your research. There's going to be a coupon code or a link that will get you a discount to get this from BrainTap. If you're a clinician out there and you want to carry this in your office, then there is an affiliate program. So they can subscribe to the affiliate program. They can get with you. They can also contact you and order it direct, right? And hold it in their office and sell it on the shelf if they need to. I recommend if you're doing anything with the brain, any weight loss, really anything you're doing with your patient, probiotics are so important. But this is something that goes beyond just what we see on the shelves and what we've learned about. This is something I didn't even know about. A month ago, I didn't even know about it. But when I heard about it and I heard the results from the Swiss Performance Institute guys that came here, the doctors that came and talked to me here at the lab, I said, I gotta use that. And they gave me some. I started using it. I gave it to one of our top docs. She's had diarrhea for 9 months. And she's been using it for 5 days. She contacted me this morning before we got on the call. She said she has a solid stool and she's so excited. She just posted, I put it on the social media and I sent it over to Dr. Jung. And I said, she's so excited because, she measures it by the Bristol stool measurement. There's a measurement of stool. If you really get into how to measure stool and bowel movements, which is not something everybody talks about at the dinner table, but these things are important, right? And I want to just have one more question for you, because when we talked before, there are people that are out there doing this fecal implants, right? They go get somebody else's fecal matter. And one of the things that I learned when I was doing my research after talking to you was there was a story about a guy that never had depression before, but he got a fecal implant And of course, his stool, I guess it got restored because of that. But then he got depression, and then he found out that the donor had depression. So it's really important, like you said, these are people that are coming from pure strains. They're not contaminated. They're ancient biome. They're doing it. But you told me a story about working with the clinics that are doing these fecal implants and what it is. Can you just tell that story maybe for the listeners?
Yes. So actually, we are in contact with these centers, with those centers, at least here, let's say. And actually, the situation when you do transplantation of the microbiome, so it's very much depends what you are transplanting. In fact, yes, if someone is lucky to get free from mutation, of course, I don't know really how to get it in our days when the changes are so serious and so massively. Yes. But let's say, so even in this case, for those strains to reach or to colonize all the intestines and to replace it in normal situation, even theoretically is impossible. Those strains or those bacteria of the microbiome, they must be, first of all, much more vital. So the situation is very simple. I don't like to mention the centers and clinics who are doing this and who are doing cooperation with us. Let's say for some commercial reasons, yes. But I could say that they use it together with this technology, and they said they're getting significantly better results, and then they're getting support from health insurance funds. Because before it was a problem that the results wasn't stable. So actually, I could say that like this one, yes, it's very nice cooperation, and I would say it's very good results. As well, we got quite nice results from the centers and clinics who are doing like stem cell therapy. And as you know, that usual way done stem cell therapy, it's very temporary, very short effect. Yes. So when combining those two things, results are much more stable and much more long lasting.
Excellent. So you've heard it here. Thank you, doctor, for sharing all that with you. Remember, it comes in a container like this. This is one month's supply. Yeah, 2 times 30. So there's 60 in here. So this is one person's 1 month supply. And you take 3 of these, and we're going to have the link below. It's very inexpensive, really. I mean, it's not even as expensive as a lot of probiotics I have here that are only, 1 container. And sometimes you see people walking up with coolers, and they have their cooler of probiotics, and it's like they're transplanting a heart or a liver or a lung or something. And this is something that they've done the clinicals. They've made it a food so that they can basically get it out to the world. Actually, the people that helped create this actually spent billions of dollars creating the research that went behind it. It's not something that was just thought of and then you decided to start marketing it. I was impressed because when the world's elite athletes are using it, they're always looking for that competitive edge. And just like you said, the gut biome is competing, the bacteria is competing, we're all competing, we're all in an Olympics of one sort or another in our daily life. So let's get our bodies operating at the highest actual level so that we can, be the best we can be at any age. And we know that if you have a gut problem, which is the number one reason people miss work in the world, is irritable bowel syndrome. And what we're talking about here is a gut problem. And if they have a gut problem, they have a brain problem because, if you have the gut biome and the brain biome are related, what happens above happens below, so all these things are happening. So I'm going to recommend you do your research, click the link, $150, 3 months of your life, and it could change what you're experiencing forever. So what I want you to do is share this video with your family, your friends, your coworkers. We need to save the gut and get our guts working to where they're supposed to so that our brains can function at the highest level. I'm on a mission to better 1 billion brains. And if you've listened this far, it's your brain we're talking about. And there's 3 brains we're talking about, not just one. There's the gut brain, there's the heart brain, and there's brain between our ears. Of course, we got brain tap for the brain between our ears. We have meditation and relaxation for the brain and our heart. But now we have something for our gut brain. We can start feeding that gut brain. We need to feed it the right nutrients. And this is going to put you ahead of the curve, something that I'm trying to bring you cutting edge technology here. And you just go directly to the company, use the link below. And if you are a clinic I'm going to recommend that you contact them and say, hey, I want to get whatever the clinical discount is. You can tell them about that when they contact you or whatever. And they can work directly with you and start getting this out to their patients and clients, whether you're doing IV therapy, whether you're doing stem cell therapy, whether you're doing weight loss, whether you're doing cognitive repair, whether you're working with autistic children, whether you're working with menopause, whatever the problem is, it all starts with the brain. And then one brain that most people are not working on is the gut brain. And that gut brain axis is so important. So again, doctor, thanks for being on the call. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and information. We're going to get this out to BrainTap Nation, and hopefully they'll respond, and I'll get some more positive feedback. So I've given it out to so many people. We're just at Dave Asprey's event, the biohackers. They're loving it. I'm getting so much positive feedback from it already, and it's only been less than a week, and people are actually feeling it. And these are people that measure everything. They measure their sleep, they measure their heart rate, they measure, everything about themselves. So they know if they take something, if it's doing something. So congratulations on what you're bringing to the world, and we're going to do our part to help get it out there.
Thank you. Thank you. And let's say, I would like to only tell that take care not only about your gut and your microbiome, but take care about your close people, your family, your neighbors, your community around you, because that's the way for us to be better, more efficient, not only more healthy, but more efficient, better mood, better possibilities, and of course, to live more nice life.
All right. Thank you very much. Please check the link below and check the information we have below or in the email that is being sent with this video. Thank you.
Thank you.